I was having a conversation the other day with someone, and I was explaining to them how bad I feel when I think about the sacrifices and the struggles my mother went through when it was Christmas time. I didn't realize it until I started getting older and grown. Now, my mother had 6 kids. Two of my older brothers was gone, but it was four of us younger ones still at home. Father wasn't there at the time, and man, just the struggles and sacrifices she had to have gone through to provide us with the things on Christmas, as far as a meal, as far as toys, and the things that we said we wanted. I mean, because when you a kid, you're not thinking about the money and how much sacrifice and struggle comes with the things you're asking for. You just thinking of it like, hey, Santa Claus gonna come bring me these gifts. And see, that's the bad part about it. During the Christmas time, if I just wish that when I was younger, I wish that I wasn't raised to believe that it was a Santa Claus and there were supposed to be gifts given. And I just wish I hadn't been raised that way. But I can't fault my parents for that because that's how they were raised. And of course, your parents want to give you what they had or what they wanted during that time when they were a kid. So it'd just be awesome if, when the kids are born, we don't start these traditions of you must have a gift. And the reason why I say that is this. A lot of parents can't afford to do these things for their children. So in turn, they feel bad. And then if they can't come up with a way, then that means the kid don't have these gifts, don't have anything. Now, I'm not saying that it's an awful thing to give your kids gifts, but I just wish that we weren't instilling in our children that that's what this day is for. Because there are so many people out here committing crimes during the holiday season that probably wouldn't even be committing these crimes. They robbing, stealing. Sometimes it end up in death, jail sentence, harm. Now you taking from one person so you can have for your family, but you didn't took from somebody else's family to make sure that your family had a great Christmas. That's the part that's awful. I mean, there are so many people that's probably locked up. When I think about it, man, there's probably so many people that's locked up that probably good people. Probably heart was in the right place. But the solution that they came up with was not a good solution. Instead of explaining to the kid, hey, we can't afford it this year. I remember one year, I think I might have been, I was in second grade, lived in Mississippi during the time, and because we moved there for a little bit. But I remember one year my parents weren't there, and I wasn't sure. Yeah, I heard that it wasn't really a Santa Claus, but I was taught that it was a Santa Claus. So parents weren't in town during the time, and I just wanted to be home for Christmas, but we was told that we had to go over our cousin's house. But no, so we went to our cousin's house, stayed Christmas Eve, woke up, her son opening a million freaking gifts, a million of them. Then we went to my auntie house, and again, my one cousin, he opened more gifts over there. Man, they gave us a candy wreath. Now, mind you, we kids. As a kid, I'm not understanding what's going on mentally because all I know is Santa Claus was supposed to come bring some gifts. And all I ended up with was a candy wreath or a popcorn wreath or something like that. After watching my cousin open all these gifts. So I couldn't wait to get home because I knew Santa Claus made it to my house. I knew that. So I get home and man, the same stuff was there that was there when I left. So I was crushed. You know what I'm saying? I was crushed as a kid. But, as a kid, I wasn't understanding that it really wasn't a Santa Claus. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't, I don't want to come off like I enjoyed Christmas. There were times, and don't get me wrong, I did have some great Christmases, but that was just that one Christmas that I recall that I didn't have anything. And mind you, there were plenty of Christmases that I know my mother sacrificed to make sure that we had things because we didn't have much money. And like I said, my mother was a single parent during that time. During those years, we had some struggles. So it's man, the things that she probably had to do to hustle up on getting this money so we can have a great Christmas. So I'm not saying that we should deprive our kids of something that we might have had, when we was younger, or the beliefs that we had. However you view Christmas, be it a pagan holiday or whatever, that's not even my discussion here. My discussion here is more of, I just wish that I wasn't raised to believe that on Christmas I'm supposed to receive or give gifts. And I just wish that, we can probably start changing that for the children to come. So that way it'll reduce some of the crime that these people are committing, out here trying to make sure that their children are having this spectacular Christmas. Because even if you believe in the Bible and the resurrection and the birth of Jesus and all this other kind of stuff, even if you believe in that aspect of it, it still should not be about how many gifts and what type of gift and giving gifts. If anything, it should be the celebration of the reason for the season, based on your belief. Now, like I said, I'm not here trying to debate a belief of what you're believing, but I just think that, especially for a lot of the minorities or people that's nowadays, it's not even minority. I mean, man, because now most of the things going on in this world now is based on class. It's not even about race anymore. So that's a whole nother conversation. So, but it's just that, maybe we should pay attention and rethink or change our paradigm on how we view and how we celebrate this season. And that's just really been on my mind lately, and especially during this season, and especially while I'm working. And as I said before in a prior podcast, I do transportation for a living, and you definitely want to follow me to get the information. But and I meet and I see a lot of different people, and I see that it's a lot of people out here that, shoot, they barely got enough money to pay their rent. Now they got to hustle up on trying to get these PlayStations and Nintendos and these Jordans and these blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And then they got a deadline to do it because it got to be done by Christmas. And guess what? Dang, in a couple of days now, rent due. I mean, it's just too much. And I just wish I understood that when I was younger. And I wouldn't even wanted to put that pressure on my mother. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't have wanted to put that pressure on her because that's awful. Man, it is. I know how I feel, or I felt during times when it wasn't even a holiday and I just simply had to get up the rent money. You know what I'm saying? And I just had to do that. So now imagine you already struggling. You already ain't got much money. So now you got to figure out how you going to give your kid a decent Christmas and pay the rent, the lights, the gas, the water, or whatever else kind of bills you have, the phone. Then they still got to go back to school in a couple weeks, week 2. Now they still got to have lunch money. You know what I'm saying? They still got things. It's still necessities that need to be had. And then, during this conversation, I was having that one with one individual, but everybody got their different way of looking at situations. But this one lady told me, she say, well, they have it's all kind of free stuff out here you can go get and blah, 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 blah. I get that. And she's absolutely correct. And it all depends on the type of person you are as well. Now, keep in mind, even though they have free stuff you can go give or get for your children, yes, it's wonderful. But think about this. How much of that free stuff is it that your child actually really want? When they giving you that list, They not saying on this list, I want that. Because most of the time when you go to these places, now you might luck up on some good stuff. I'm not saying that all the places, because I ain't been all around the world and seen everything they give away. But the things that I've seen at these places that they give, yes, you can get some decent coats, yada, 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 yada. Yes. But I'm saying the stuff that your child be wanting. You know, most of that stuff you don't find at these free giveaways. You don't. You know what I mean? And if you do, that's a blessing for real. You know what I'm saying? That was the universe really working in your favor that day. So, the moral of this story, the point of this, I ain't finna go on and on, keep talking about the same thing, but I just wish that when I was brought up during my time, and I just wish that I wasn't taught that this was a season to give and receive a ton of gifts. I don't, because I actually feel bad thinking about, what type of sacrifices that my mother had to make in order to make it happen at the house. Because she not only had to make sure that we had the gifts we asked for, but she also had to make sure we had food on the table. Then she had to, a week later, make sure that the rent was paid and all the other bills in the house was paid. So I feel bad about that. When I think about it, I do. I mean, I still have little nieces and nephews that I try to do little stuff for Christmas, because that's how they're being raised, that this is the season to do that in. You know what I'm saying? And that's because we haven't changed that narrative. But I just wish that we'll get to a point when we actually say, hey, when the kids are born, or, when they're young, like, look, this is why we're having this day. And we should really look to not give these kids all these gifts on Christmas. I can understand the birthday thing, but if you celebrating Christmas based on the biblical sense for you, then we shouldn't be buying all these expensive gifts anyway. It should be about the reason for the season, depending on your belief. And like I say, I'm not trying to have a conversation on beliefs, but what I'm trying to have a conversation on is we probably need to, change how we're raising our children. And, something to think about. All right, have a good one. Happy holidays.